Hi, welcome everyone to this episode of the CCaaS industry update with a fantastic interview. I really appreciate someone that I've been working with for a little while, spending the time to talk to us today. That's Lisa Fradin, the Chief People Officer from IP Integration. Lisa joined IPI in 2019, following an 11-year stint at Berkshire-based Travelport as their VP of HR and Global Talent. Her 20 years experience in dynamic multinational technology businesses lends itself well to IPI, where she brings her experience as a commercial HR leader and strategic business partner to create a truly exceptional workplace. Lisa specializes in talent acquisition and development, culture and engagement, M&A and TUPE. And we're going to be talking today about an incredibly important topic for our market from a recruitment perspective, and that's onboarding. So Lisa, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks very much, James. Makes me feel very old listening to that.
Yeah, 2 years experience, but all of a very high standard.
I'm only 23.
yeah, me and you both. And then just to give everyone listening a sense of what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be running through a few questions then over the next sort of 15 to 20 minutes. We're going to be looking at what good onboarding means. IPI, I know them as a client, have an incredible onboarding approach, and Lisa's going to be running us through what that looks like, what it means, and also the process that she and her team took to get it to the standard that it is today. We're going to be talking about the hard truths that employers might need to face if they're going to be reviewing their current onboarding and what they might need to think about. And also, we're going to be getting Lisa's view on how recruitment and retention strategies have changed over the last few years. And finally, as a point for candidates out there, maybe you've just joined a company recently and you wish the onboarding was better or still is going to be better, talking about what maybe you can do as an employee at a business to get more out of the onboarding process. So we'll be running all over that in the next few minutes. Hope you're going to join us all the way through. So Lisa, question one then. So what does good onboarding mean to you, and what do you see as the benefits of that to recruitment and retention?
So I think recruitment, onboarding, retention, they're all kind of they're all the same, essentially. They're all intrinsically linked. So if you think about onboarding, it's a follow-on from recruitment. And then, if you get that right, then you get your retention. And, for us, if I kind of think about the employee journey, ultimately, the start point being recruitment. And I appreciate we're talking mostly about onboarding. But, the way we view how, people approach IPI and their experience at IPI is from the minute that they walk through their door, what's their experience with us? And, if I kind of skip through the recruitment process, onboarding starts the minute that offer is accepted. So we talk about onboarding, but it includes what we call pre-boarding. So, and in many ways for us, pre-boarding, that piece between when offer is accepted and the person actually arrives, that's the most important bit, because that's the point where somebody has, made a big decision to change employer. And ultimately, that's when they're kind of vulnerable, I guess. Have they made the right decision? You get counter offers, you get all of those things going on. So that's the bit that we put an awful lot of effort into with our managers. So we've got a whole process around, touch points from our managers, depending on how long that notice period is. There are, whether it's a call, whether it's sending information, if it's a 3-month notice period, it's something that will happen on a kind of bi-weekly basis, so that when they arrive, they already have built some sort of relationship, already kind of got a, on the front foot, know something about the organization. And then we start into kind of the more, I guess, traditional onboarding piece. So that's kind of where we put most of our efforts, the pre-boarding, and then of course you start on the onboarding journey itself. I'm going to stop there and see if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. And I really like that term, that pre-boarding, and thinking about that notice period. And as you say, from the moment that an offer is accepted, that individual, in their mind, in their heart, they're now part of your team, they're exiting another team. Hopefully that other business is going to get the exit right, and that's something I'll be talking about with people on another day. But the onboarding, it does, you're absolutely right, it starts from there. And I see it, unfortunately, on a regular basis, that communication is not there, those touch points that
Yeah.
you mentioned. So
Yeah.
you've obviously got this, you've obviously got this really well thought out. When you joined, how did you start reviewing the process as it was, and then what was the kind of the plan and the structure to go from as was to as is now in terms of your onboarding at IPI?
Yeah, so when I came on board, we were looking at everything at IPI from a people perspective and what we could do. But as we looked at onboarding, essentially there were two elements of work, really, I guess. One is the actual induction day that we do. You have to get your induction day right. You have to have the right people there, and that has to have a bit of a wow factor to it. So one was that actual day, which takes an awful lot of work to get it right. But then the other piece of work is, as I said, is that kind of employee journey from the recruitment onwards. So induction, we spent an awful lot of time making sure that we were going to have the right members of the leadership team there. So our induction day is actually myself, and it's our CEO that does it. We're relatively small, so we have a massive advantage here. We're 130 people, but the induction days are run with myself and with Sat Sanger, our CEO. So the fact you have your CEO who's leading sessions with your people, that tells you the importance of the actual induction process. So outside of that, the actual recruitment, pre-boarding, onboarding process, we literally kind of sat down and thought, right, okay, how would I want to be treated? Because ultimately that's the key thing. You want to put yourself in someone's shoes and say, what's that experience need to look like? Because it's crazy how so many companies spend so much time doing the recruitment, finding the right person. It can be a very lengthy process to find the right person, and then that's it, kind of down tools and kind of done. So we wanted to make that whole process seamless. So we literally planned it out step by step. We have a lovely one pager, which has the whole journey planned out. So as I said, we start with pre-boarding, but our induction and onboarding goes right through to the end of the first year. So when we've gone through that whole kind of pre-boarding bit, we have our day one. People arrive on day one, and it's more about getting to know the team, getting to know high level about the, apologies, getting to know high level about you couldn't make it up, could you? Getting to know high level about IPI, rather than, I think, traditionally that day one can be about get your laptop, get your login, do the admin, you must do this, you must do that. Ours is much more about talking and meeting the team. And of course, it has to be done in different ways. If somebody's remote, you have to get the laptop to them, but still we try and make sure that somebody comes in, there's that team element, they have a team lunch or they go out for dinner or whatever. And then it's about where do they go from there. So day one, everyone has a call again with Sat, our CEO. So he either meets them in person or he calls them. And then we have already planned out the first 2 weeks for that person, and we give them a schedule of what they can expect. So we're supporting them all the way. So we hire adults, right? So anyone can jump in and they can find their own way around. But isn't it great to go in somewhere and it's kind of work, that hard work's been done for you, and you don't have that anxiety about finding out who people are and introducing them to you, because there's somebody that's introducing those people that's already arranged for you. They already know who you are and they know about your background. So we have multiple check-in points as we go kind of through the kind of traditional sort of onboarding period. And that involves the people team as well. So we have a check-in at the end of week one. Has it all gone? Any nasty surprises? At the end of the first month, and it kind of goes on. So, first week, first month, month 3, and then at the end of the first year. And all along the process, we are constantly saying, what should we do differently? Have we got this right? What was your experience? And it's amazing from speaking to people, just the tiny bits and pieces you get that, mean that you can tweak and refine things for the better. So that's kind of very long-winded way of saying that. That's how we went about it. It's 2 sides, your induction day and your actual employee experience journey. Yeah,
no, not at all long-winded. I think it's a really thorough process you've got that lasts, just going back to what we were saying before, from the moment the offer is accepted through to the end of the first year of employment. It's multi-layered. You've got different people involved from different parts of the business. You're thinking about on-site staff versus remote staff and how those things are affect the process. Yeah, you'll see companies, I saw just this week on LinkedIn, almost celebrating the fact that you'll have a laptop and a phone day one, no faffing around. I think they said, okay, it's probably a bit more than that. And you are right, you're hiring adults, but there are going to be those people that will ask for support, and they're great because you know what they need, and they're vocal in it, they're confident. There's also going to be people that don't, and they're the ones that might have the issues and the challenges around knowing who to reach out to for things, even 6, 8, 10 months into a business. And the fact that you're constantly reviewing and thinking about improving means you're picking up those people as well. And I'm sure that you've seen that in your retention statistics, in the period of time that you've been with the business.
Yeah, I mean, we're really pleased, actually, I have to say, with our retention figures just generally, because I'm obviously biased, but we are a great place to work. We genuinely care about our people. Our CEO genuinely cares about our people. We constantly talk about being people and purpose led, because that's the one thing you can't replicate, right? Organizations can replicate your products and services, but not your people and your culture. So we're hugely focused on that. And that does reflect itself in our retention figures. We have very little natural attrition. But the thing that I'm most proud of with our onboarding processes, we get told all the time by our people, by our new hires, that, oh, wow, this is great. I've never had an onboarding experience like this before. And that's the sort of stuff that we want to hear. So that's the stuff that means we know that it's working. And it's, it's really simple. It's a really simple process. It's absolutely not rocket science. And in fact, there's loads of brilliant kind of platforms out there that can really help you with this stuff as well. They can kind of schedule all the meetings for you. And, there are great tools out there. We're small, so we're doing it manually. But, it's a simple thing for any organization to get right. You just need to sit down and think about your approach.
Yeah. I mean, so, this is why the fact you guys have got this so right is why I wanted to have you on to talk about this. But if you're taking yourself back to where you started, or maybe we're thinking about businesses, there might be, managers, employers listening to this saying, well, that's all very well, but okay, we'll take a look at it. What are the hard truths you think as an employer you need to face to get this right? Where's the difficult lessons to learn, maybe?
So you've got to invest time. You're dealing with people, and you have to invest time in this. Everyone is super busy. There's a reason you've hired somebody in the first place, right? You have a need. Yeah. So there's potentially a gap there that needs filling. So the challenge with that is there's work that needs to be done. So it's very easy, as I said, to hire your person and then just kind of forget about them. And then, just throw them in at the deep end when they arrive on day one and crack on with your job. But ultimately, your managers have to take this incredibly seriously. They have to understand the importance of, again, employee experience. How does it feel to that person, in the knowledge that if they get this right, we're not going to have an issue with retention. That person isn't going to leave after 3 months, 4 months, whenever. And they'll come up to speed quicker. If we have the right process in place where they're meeting the right people, they're being shown the right tools, they'll be productive quicker as well. So as long as you invest the time, that's the key thing, getting your managers to know, yes, there's that fire over there to put out, but actually it's better to support this person right now, because in the long run, this is going to be the right approach, the better approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that connection with hiring managers, line managers, is essential in making this work. But having people that are, in roles like yourself as well, within people, within HR, within talent, that are championing this and are given the backing and the presence to be able to deliver it as well is critical. And one thing I would say that I see, exit strategy as well. If you do have people leaving your business, exit interviews with them to really understand why, and taking that on board. And not sort of saying, oh, well, they just weren't quite right or whatever. I think that is key as well, because that feeds into that. Well, maybe that's something that could have been looked at in the recruitment process and in the onboarding process as well. So I think, there are probably tough lessons to be learned if you're approaching rejuvenating and evolving your onboarding process. So a little bit just away from the onboarding them and looking at recruitment and retention in general. What have you seen change in terms of when you've been bringing talent on board or retaining people over the last few years? Obviously, we've had this COVID period, and that changed things dramatically. But what's really changed for you, do you think? What are the key themes?
So if I go back through my career to sort of the early days when I started out, the sort of 90s, this whole idea of, people are your best asset. That kind of concept was out there, and it was just very much hollow words. I think today, to attract the right people and bring the right people in, you really have to have a genuine focus on your culture, and on your people. You can't just say we put our people first. People are our best assets. You have to really mean that and understand that and believe that, because if you do believe that, that's where you get the success. And so you've got to have a focus on culture and the culture that you're creating. Your employees, really simply put, have got to feel that they're in an organization where they're cared about. It comes down to that, nothing more than that. And you've got to make sure that you get your recruitment process right in terms of hiring the right people for fit, because not everybody is right for every organization. So, I'm a big believer in spending time, as you know, James, investing in that recruitment process. Don't just take the right person because, they have the right skill set. From a behavior and values perspective, are they going to be the right person? Because ultimately, people don't come to work anymore just for the job, just for the money. They come to work for an employer that cares about them in an environment where they feel, they can do good stuff, So that's been the big shift for me. Much more of a focus on less words around, people are our best assets, to genuinely caring about employee experience. If you're not thinking about your culture, putting your people first, you're just not going to be an employer of choice. You're not going to get the right candidates, because believe me, all other companies out there, I have a big focus on that these days.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think there's a big difference between saying you're going to do something and actually then doing it. And that's, that does make a difference when people are applying for roles, interviewing, and then ultimately sticking around. And so last question, and I think this is quite a tricky one that I pose to you. If someone has just joined a business or they're about to join a business, they've accepted an offer and they're not getting those touch points, the onboarding isn't there, what would you advise individuals could do that might help themselves and therefore help their employers as well? What advice would you give to applicants like that?
Yeah, it is a really tough one, because my immediate response to that is that they're in the wrong company.
Quit and join IPI. That's
exactly. It's like that shouldn't be the case, right? We should be grown up enough to get this stuff right now. However, of course, it does happen, and I would say, you've got to speak out about it and find the right people. Again, as come back to that concept, we're all adults. We can all have a voice. Make it better for the people that are coming down the line. Make it better for yourself, because if you're sticking around at that company and the onboarding process is not right, some people will check out before they've got through that onboarding process. So have a voice and have a say. And we're massive believers, just generally all the way through someone's employment. A good employer will be listening. Not just communicating downwards, but listening all the time. So if you are in the right place, but they just haven't cracked their onboarding yet, they should be listening. So tell the right people, whoever those people might be. Yeah,
absolutely. It is tough. I think I know there's applicants that read the newsletter and or listen to the interview. So I think this has been a lot about employers and them getting it right. But we have to look at that flip side for individuals as well, and it is tough. I think I would say use every channel of communication as well. Find the right person, but then if they're better on WhatsApp or text or whatever, then use those as well, because some people are just super busy. I know when I'm commuting with some people, it's got to be WhatsApp because their emails are so overwhelmed, and it's not for lack of wanting to help. They just won't see your email for 2 or 3 days. So there's that element as well. But Lisa, thank you again for your time. Wonderful listening to your thoughts on those points. I'm sure the audience of the newsletter are going to take away a lot from that. I appreciate your time.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, James.
All right, take care.
Thanks.